wasn't supposed to come home until Friday. That week had been a nightmare. Endless meetings, hotel food, fake smiles at networking events. The conference in Chicago was draining every ounce of energy I had. By Thursday morning, I'd had enough. I changed my flight, told my team I needed rest, and headed to the airport with a plan to surprise my boyfriend, Matt. I smiled to myself during the whole flight. I imagined his face lighting up when I walked in. I thought he'd throw his arms around me, kiss me, tell me he missed me more than words could say. We'd curl up on the couch, eat takeout, and laugh like we always did. I was wrong. So wrong. My Uber pulled into our driveway just after 9 p.m. The porch light was on, which was weird. Matt always forgot to leave it on. I remember thinking maybe he was out grabbing groceries or something. But then, I heard music. No, bass. Thudding, deep, club-level bass that rattled the windows. At first, I froze. Was there a party nearby? Did the neighbors suddenly become EDM fans? Nope. It was our house. My heart started to pound. I grabbed my suitcase, walked up the steps slowly, and put my key in the door. The second I opened it, the smell of cheap beer and weed hit me like a slap. Laughter, loud voices, a girl's high-pitched scream from the kitchen. I stood there, suitcase still in my hand, staring into a house full of people I didn't know. A red plastic cup rolled toward my foot. Someone yelled, "Yo, close the door, you're letting the smoke out." They didn't even recognize me. Because why would they? I wasn't supposed to be home. But I was, and I was about to find out exactly what happens when you walk in on a life you didn't know you were living in. I don't remember dropping my suitcase. I just remember the way my stomach sank when I saw her. She was sitting on my couch, the one Matt and I picked out together last fall. Legs crossed, drink in hand, wearing my hoodie. Not just any hoodie, my college hoodie. The one I wore every finals week for good luck. The one that still smelled faintly like lavender detergent and home. She was laughing at something some guy said, then looked up and locked eyes with me. I waited for confusion, maybe even embarrassment. But she didn't flinch. She smirked. I took a step forward, still not fully processing what I was walking into. The living room looked like a frat house exploded. Beer cans, empty chip bags, a bong sitting on top of my anthropology textbooks. A couple was making out in the hallway. Someone stumbled out of the bathroom holding a bottle of wine. Then I saw him. Matthew. He came out of the kitchen, holding a tray of what looked like tequila shots, laughing like it was the best night of his life. He hadn't seen me yet. I watched for a second longer, in complete shock. That's when he turned and froze. Our eyes met. He blinked like I was a hallucination. "Chloe," he said, too loud, too dumbfounded. And suddenly the room shifted. The music didn't stop, but the energy changed. A few people turned to look. Whispers started. Matt walked toward me, smiling in that fake, guilty way people do when they know they're screwed. "Babe, what are you doing here? I thought you weren't coming back until tomorrow." I didn't answer. I looked at the girl on the couch again, still wearing my hoodie, still smirking. And then back at Matt. All I said was, "Is this some kind of joke?" He chuckled nervously. "It's just a small get-together." Chill. Small? I glanced around at the 30-plus strangers wrecking my living room. "And she?" I nodded toward the hoodie thief. Matt didn't answer. Neither did she. They didn't need to, because I already knew. I don't know what possessed me to do it. Maybe it was shock, or adrenaline, or the tiny flicker of hope that maybe, just maybe, there was still some logical explanation. I walked right past him, right past the strangers, straight down the hallway, toward our bedroom. I didn't even take my shoes off. Behind me, I heard Matt stammering something, telling people to give us a minute. But I was already turning the doorknob. The door was unlocked. That should have been my first warning. The second was the bra on the doorknob. It wasn't mine. I pushed the door open, and there it was. A scene burned into my brain forever. A girl, not the one from the couch, another one, sitting on my bed. Our bed, hair messy, lipstick smeared. Holding one of my wine glasses, like she belonged there, like this was her space. She looked up, surprised but not embarrassed. "You must be Chloe," she said, like we were at brunch and she was meeting me for the first time. I couldn't even speak. Everything in me locked up. I stared at the bed, at the sheets I'd washed just before I left for Chicago, at the framed photo of Matt and me at the beach, the one that now had a water ring from someone's beer can on it. Behind me, Matt's voice crept in. Okay, look, he said, trying to get in front of me. It's not what it looks like. I laughed. Actually laughed. Really? I said, turning to him. Because it looks like you threw a party in our house, let strangers trash everything I own, and invited a rotating cast of groupies to our bed. The girl on the bed stood up, straightened her skirt, and left the room without a word. Smart move. Matt reached for me. Let me explain. I backed away. Don't touch me. I think he realized in that moment that there was no coming back from this. The excuses were pointless. The damage was too loud, too visible, too soaked into every fiber of this house. You were gone, he said quietly, as if that justified everything. I blinked. I was gone for 4 days, Matt, not 4 years. He didn't answer. I didn't cry. Not then. I just stood there in the middle of the mess he'd made and thought, who the hell have I been living with? I sat down on the edge of the bed, or what was left of it, trying to steady my breathing. Everything felt tilted, like my brain couldn't catch up with reality. Matt stood in the doorway, arms crossed like he was the one who'd been wronged. Chloe, can we just talk like adults? I looked up at him slowly. Sure, I said, voice flat. Let's talk. Explain to me how throwing a full-blown rager in our house while I was gone makes sense. He shrugged. Like this was some minor disagreement about takeout. It was just a party, babe. You always overreact to things. That stupid sentence, it cracked something in me. Overreact? I repeated, standing up now. You think walking into my own home, finding 2 girls in my clothes, 1 in my bed, strangers doing God knows what all over my furniture, is something I'm overreacting to? He ran a hand through his hair, like he was stressed. It wasn't supposed to be like this, he muttered. It got out of hand. I laughed bitterly. Oh, you planned this? He hesitated. No, not like, just a few people. Then it kind of snowballed. I started pacing, trying to wrap my head around what he was saying. You knew I was coming home Friday, I said. Why risk this? Why disrespect me like this? He looked annoyed now. Because I needed space, okay? You're always so controlling. The conference, the job, the planning. I needed a break. A break? So your definition of a break is to trash our home and sleep with God knows how many randoms while I'm working my ass off to build a future for us. That's when he said it. The sentence I'll never forget. I didn't think you'd find out. There it was. Not, I'm sorry. Not, I messed up. Just the truth. He never thought I'd come home early. Never thought I'd see the real him. And for a moment, I just stood there, quiet. Because now I had seen it. And I couldn't unsee it. I want everyone out, I said calmly. Now. He blinked. What? I said, get them out, Matt. Every last one of them. He hesitated. I swear to God, if they're not out in 10 minutes, I'll call the cops myself and have the whole place cleared. And for once, he listened, because he knew. The girl who left 4 days ago wasn't the one standing in front of him now. Matt didn't argue. For the first time that night, he actually looked nervous. He turned and walked back into the chaos, while I stood in the hallway, arms folded, watching him, watching all of them. The girl in my hoodie was now in the kitchen taking selfies. Some guy was dancing alone with a half-empty bottle of whiskey, nearly knocking over the lamp my mom bought us for our anniversary. Matt clapped his hands like a camp counselor. All right, guys. Hey, party's over. Everyone out. It took a second for people to register what was happening. Then came the groans, the eye rolls, the sarcastic laughs. Dude, seriously? We just got here. One guy, shirtless, naturally, said, she's kicking us out. Who even is she? That was it. I stepped forward. I live here, and unless you want me to call the cops, you'll leave now. There was a beat of silence, then movement. People started grabbing bags, drinks, phones. A couple girls scoffed as they walked past me, one whispering, "Someone's dramatic." The girl in my hoodie didn't move. She stood in front of the sink, sipping from her cup, watching me like she was bored. Matt walked over to her and muttered something. She rolled her eyes and finally left, but not before smirking at me one last time. I followed the last of them out, holding the door open with one hand and my phone in the other. Screen lit up, already dialing 911 just in case anyone got cute. It took about 10 minutes. Then the door closed. And silence. Except it wasn't silence. Not really. The house was still humming, with the stench of spilled liquor, with the dull throb of music still ringing in the walls, with the echo of betrayal that hung in the air like smoke. Matt stood in the middle of the living room now, looking completely lost. "So, can we talk?" I looked around, at the overturned chair, the stains on the carpet, the scratch on the TV screen, my half-eaten birthday cake. Wow, last week's birthday cake, smeared across the coffee table. "No," I said. "We're past talking." He blinked. "So what now?" I walked over to the corner where my suitcase still lay, half unzipped. I knelt down and started zipping it closed. "What are you doing?" "What does it look like?" He stepped forward. "You're seriously leaving over one party?" I stood up slowly, pulling the handle of my suitcase behind me. I looked him dead in the eyes. "I'm not leaving because of one party, Matt. I'm leaving because I finally saw the truth." And I walked out. No more words, no more second chances. Just the sound of the door clicking shut behind me. My mom didn't ask questions. When I showed up at her front door at nearly midnight with a suitcase in one hand and mascara running down my cheeks, she just opened the door and pulled me into a hug. It was the kind of hug that says, "Whatever it is, we'll get through it." She didn't need to know the details right away. I didn't have the strength to give them anyway. I slept on the couch that night, wrapped in an old throw blanket that still smelled like vanilla and dryer sheets. The same couch I'd cried on during my first breakup in high school. The one I said I'd never need again. Funny how life circles back when you least expect it. The next morning, I sat at the kitchen table with a mug of coffee I barely touched. My mom finally broke the silence. "So, is it over?" I stared into the coffee like it could give me the answer. "I think it's been over for a while," I said quietly. I just didn't want to see it. She nodded like she knew exactly what I meant. And maybe she did. She'd never liked Matt. Not really. She never said it out loud, but moms don't have to. They know. "I found two girls in the house," I said after a moment. "One of them was in my hoodie. The other was in my bed." Mom blinked. "Your bed?" "Yeah." She didn't curse. My mom isn't the type. But her eyes said every word I didn't. "That boy's lucky I'm not in jail right now," she muttered, sipping her coffee. I managed a smile. But what hit me harder than the betrayal was the realization that everyone else had seen it but me. My best friend Rachel texted me that morning. "Girl, I wanted to say something so many times. I just didn't know how." She attached a screenshot. It was from a group chat Matt had with his guy friends. In it, he'd said, "Chloe's out of town. House is mine. Time to let loose." And someone replied, "Better hope wifey doesn't come home early, LOL. The date on the message? The same day I left for Chicago. He'd been planning it. This wasn't a one-time mistake. This was who he was, and I was just someone who didn't want to see the cracks because I'd spent too long building around them. That day, on my mom's couch, I made a decision. I wasn't going to cry over someone who chose to throw me away. I was going to get my life back, piece by piece. 2 days passed, no calls, no texts, not even a half-hearted, "You left your toothbrush" message from Matt. It was like he expected me to just disappear, to vanish quietly, like an embarrassed ex-girlfriend, while he reclaimed the wreckage of the life we'd built. But he forgot something, a small inconvenient detail. The lease was in my name, not ours, not his, mine. I remembered the day we signed it. Matt didn't have much credit, and I had a stable job. I told the landlord I'd be the primary leaseholder. At the time, I didn't think much of it. We were in love. What could go wrong? Well, everything. So while I sat on my mom's couch, eating cereal out of a coffee mug and listening to her vacuum in the background, I opened my laptop and pulled up the rental agreement. Yep, there it was. My name, my email, my signature. Matt was listed as an additional occupant. He had zero legal claim to that apartment. Zero. I stared at the document for a long time, heartbeat growing steadier with each passing minute. Something in me, something cold, clear, and very done, clicked into place. I wasn't going to disappear. I was going to take everything back. I called the landlord. Hi, this is Chloe Bennett, Unit 3A. Oh, hey, Chloe. Everything okay? Not really. There's been an incident, and I need to update you on the occupancy of the unit. He listened. I told him what happened. No dramatic details, just facts. That Matt had hosted a destructive party, that I'd moved out temporarily for my own safety, and that I was exercising my right to terminate his occupancy. The landlord didn't even hesitate. You want me to issue a formal notice to vacate? Yes, I said, effective immediately. And you want the locks changed? I took a breath. Yes, as soon as legally possible. By that afternoon, the letter was drafted, signed, and sent to Matt's email. I requested a read receipt. It came back 10 minutes later. He'd read it. No response, no denial, no apology, just silence. I didn't know if he was shocked, furious, or relieved, but I knew one thing. He wasn't in control anymore. And for the first time in weeks, I stood up from my mom's couch, went into the bathroom, looked in the mirror, and saw someone I hadn't seen in a long time. Me. Matt's birthday was in 5 days. I only remembered because I had a gift stashed in my mom's closet. A new leather watch he'd been eyeing for months. I'd ordered it 2 weeks before the conference. Had it gift wrapped with a note that said, "To better times ahead." See. Funny how fast things can change. I pulled the box out from under a stack of sweaters and stared at it for a moment. Then I walked straight to the kitchen trash and dropped it in. No ceremony, no regret. But I didn't stop there. Because I knew Matt, and I knew that birthday party was still happening. He'd been hyping it for weeks. Big night. Friends flying in. Rooftop bar after party. I'd helped him plan it. Picked the venue. Negotiated the cake order. Even made the stupid playlist. I thought we'd be celebrating together. Now, let's just say I had other plans. I logged into the event page. Why? Because I still had admin access. He never revoked it. Rookie mistake. I stared at the guest list. Dozens of names. Some I knew, some I didn't. I hovered over the cancel event button for a moment. But no, that would be too kind, too clean. Instead, I edited the details. New location, canceled, host is a cheater. New description, sorry folks, party's off. Apparently Matt already celebrated in my bed. With strangers. I hit save. Instant notifications went out. Comments flooded in, laughter, confusion, gasps, screenshots of the page were everywhere within an hour. I wasn't even trying to be petty. Not really. It just felt honest. Like returning a lie with truth, straight to the inbox of everyone who thought he was the golden boy. But I wasn't done. I called the venue next. Hi, I'm calling about a reservation under Matt L. Yes, the rooftop birthday on Saturday, right? Yeah, I need to cancel that. Pause. Are you the card holder? I'm the one who paid the deposit. Another pause. Then, okay. It's done. Refund will go back to your card within 5 to 7 business days. Click done. I sat back, phone in hand, and exhaled. This wasn't about revenge. Not really. It was about clearing the space. The space Matt had taken. The space I'd given away piece by piece. And now? I was taking it back, one detail at a time. I wasn't even planning to check my phone that night. After nuking Matt's birthday event and canceling the venue, I'd promised myself a quiet evening. Wine, bad TV, maybe even a bubble bath to wash off the last traces of him. But then, my phone lit up. First one text, then 2. Then a stream. From people I hadn't heard from in months. Old coworkers, college friends, even Matt's cousin Sarah, who once called me too type A for him. Girl, what did he do? Please tell me the event post is real. Check the group chat. Now it's wild. I had no idea what group chat they were talking about until I remembered. The guys' group chat. The one Matt's friend Tyler accidentally added me to months ago when they were organizing a surprise dinner. He never realized I was still in it, and apparently, they'd forgotten too. I opened it. What I saw? Unfiltered panic. Matt. Who TF changed the event page? Tyler. Bro, Chloe? Are you serious right now? Jake. LMAO, you got caught, man. Told you not to party at your damn place. Matt again. It wasn't like that. She wasn't supposed to be home. Tyler. You're a moron. She was good to you. You let Jade wear her clothes? And then, like icing on the chaos cake, a message from a random number. Tell her I'm sorry. I didn't know she was your actual girlfriend. I stared at that one for a long moment. So they thought I was a myth, a placeholder, a name he threw around when it was convenient. I'd spent 3 years with this man, paid bills, cooked meals, sat through holidays with his weird uncle just to keep the peace. And now I was some kind of surprise plot twist? Please. Matt left the chat minutes later. No goodbye, no defense, just left. Someone screenshot the meltdown and posted it on Instagram with the caption, Matt's house of cards finally collapsed. Sardi, birthday canceled. I wasn't tagged, but I saw it. I watched the story views pile up, watched people choose sides. And for the first time in days, I wasn't ashamed. I wasn't hiding. Because this wasn't my mess to clean anymore. It was his. 3 days after I left, I went back to the apartment. Alone. Matt wasn't there. I made sure of it. I'd asked the landlord to notify me the moment he was scheduled to come collect his things, and I made my move before that happened. I didn't go to confront him. I went to reclaim what was mine. I walked through the front door slowly, half expecting the smell of cheap beer and bad decisions to still be there. But the air was stale, quiet, like the space was holding its breath. I started in the bedroom, grabbing the last few pieces of clothing I'd left in drawers. I took down the framed photo of me and my dog that Matt always said didn't match the vibe. I pulled my favorite throw blanket out from under the bed, the one he'd spilled wine on, and promised to dry clean. He never did. But it wasn't until I opened the closet that everything shifted. There, behind a row of jackets and dress shirts that hadn't seen an iron in months, was a box, a plain black shoebox. I didn't remember putting it there. So I pulled it down, set it on the floor, and opened it. Inside were things I wasn't supposed to find. A stack of old Polaroids, not of us, of Matt and other women. Some dated while we were together. A folded piece of paper. A note, scribbled in Sharpie. You'll always be my what if. K. A crumpled envelope with receipts, dinners, hotels, bars. None of which I'd been to. And at the bottom of the box, a single bracelet. Silver, delicate, engraved on the inside, to my muse. I didn't recognize it, but I didn't need to, because in that moment, it all came crashing down. This wasn't just about a party. It wasn't even just about cheating. It was about history, patterns, a truth so loud it had been hiding in plain sight. Matt had never really been mine. I was just the most convenient chapter in a long, messy book, and for a second, I felt stupid, naive, played. But then, I looked around at the empty walls, the stained couch, the closet that no longer held a future, and I didn't feel weak. I felt done. I took the box, not to confront him, not to use as revenge, but because I never wanted to forget what trusting the wrong person really looked like. I kept thinking about her, the girl on my couch that night, legs tucked under her like she lived there, drink in hand, wearing my hoodie like she owned it. That smug little smirk, the way she didn't flinch, the way she knew who I was. And didn't care. She wasn't just some random party girl. I felt it. So I did what any half-broken, half-healing woman would do. I stalked her. Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, you name it. It didn't take long. Turns out we'd met before. 2 years ago. At a housewarming party Matt threw for one of his friends. I remembered her name as soon as I saw it. Rachel. No, not my Rachel. Not my best friend. This one was someone else. A girl Matt went to college with. She was in a couple of our old group photos from back then. One of those girls who floated around the edges, always a little too friendly, always lingering near Matt just a second too long. Back then, I didn't think much of it. I trusted him. He told me she was like a sister. Yeah, right. Her Instagram bio said she was an artist and energy worker. Her grid was full of blurry selfies, poetry in the captions, candles, and moon phase charts. And then I saw it. A photo from his apartment, our apartment, posted the week I was in Chicago. Same couch, same angle, same damn hoodie. Caption, "Comfort looks different when it's real." I felt my jaw clench, so it wasn't just a hookup. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't one of those nights. She'd been there before, and suddenly so much made sense. The way she looked at me, not with surprise, but with possession. The way she didn't move when I told everyone to leave. The way Matt never really explained who she was, because she wasn't a stranger. She was the secret he didn't bother hiding anymore. And that realization didn't break me. It crystallized something inside me, because now I knew exactly who I was dealing with. No more excuses. No more what ifs. No more wondering whether I overreacted. I didn't. I saw things clearly now. And when someone shows you who they are, unapologetically, repeatedly, you don't question it. You believe them. I didn't just lose a boyfriend. I lost an entire future. The one we mapped out over takeout containers and rainy Sundays. The one we whispered about in bed when the world felt soft and far away. The one I clung to like a life raft, because I thought that's what love was supposed to feel like. We had plans, a trip to Portugal, a dog named Juniper, a wedding in the fall because you hate sweating in photos, he once joked. We talked about a guest list, a mortgage, kids, maybe one, maybe two. He wanted a girl first. I wanted someone who'd never have to doubt how deeply she was loved, and just like that, it was gone. Not because I left, but because he had already let go of it long before I did. He just didn't have the courage to say it out loud, so I had to be the one to burn it down. That week, I did something I'd been avoiding. I opened the Our Future folder on my computer. It was full of bookmarked Airbnbs, venue ideas, baby name lists, recipes we wanted to try, homes we dreamed of buying. I stared at it for a long time. Then I hit delete. Not with rage, not with tears, just peace. Because I finally realized I was the only one holding on to it. Matt had moved on long before the party, long before the girl on the couch, long before I ever packed my bag for Chicago. I was just the last to know. And maybe that's the cruelest part of betrayal. It isn't the moment you see the truth. It's realizing how long it's been true. So I let it all go. The playlist, the ring idea I'd left open on my browser, the someday drawer of postcards and souvenirs we said we'd frame. All of it. Gone. Because clinging to a ghost of a life doesn't bring it back. And I was done talking to ghosts. The party wasn't supposed to happen. After I torched the online invites and canceled the venue, I thought Matt would get the message. But if there's one thing Matt never lacked, it was audacity. He moved it. Same day, different location. A friend's basement apartment, complete with string lights, a rented speaker, and a bunch of people pretending they weren't walking into a slow-motion car crash. And he still posted about it. A new flyer, a new playlist, a caption that said, "Can't cancel the vibe." Real ones know where to be. Classy. So I made one final phone call. No, not to the police, not to Rachel DeVent, to a lawyer. See, what Matt didn't know was that in my leaseholder rights, I was fully entitled to seek reimbursement for property damage. And after I itemized the broken lamp, the torn curtain rods, the deep wine stain in the bedroom carpet, let's just say I had enough to file a formal small claims case. And I did. But I didn't stop there. I also filed a civil harassment complaint because the party hadn't just been reckless, it had been targeted. The captions, the comments, the public callouts, all of it aimed to humiliate me. That's when my lawyer asked the golden question. Would you like him to be served in person? Yes. Yes, I would. He asked when would be most impactful. I told him. His, party. Saturday, 9 p.m. And so, that night, just as the bass started thumping and someone shouted, "Shots!" a woman in a gray blazer and jeans stepped into the apartment and asked loudly, "Is there a Matthew Elliott here?" He raised his beer, thinking it was some kind of party gag, until she handed him the envelope and said, loud enough for the room to hear, "You've officially been served. Have a great night." And then she walked out. Silence. Then someone whispered, "Dude, what did you do?" I wasn't there. I didn't need to be. But I saw the video later. Someone filmed it. Of course they did. The expression on his face? Pure collapse. That was the night Matt learned something important. You don't get to treat people like they're disposable and expect the world to keep clapping. Sometimes karma doesn't knock, it serves. People always talk about breakups like they're this neat little ending. Like you cry, eat some ice cream, maybe cut your hair, and then suddenly, boom, you're healed. No one tells you about the quiet, uncomfortable space in between. The in between where your toothbrush is still at your mom's, where your name is still on the mail, where your body still flinches when you hear his ringtone, even though you deleted his number. That's where I was. But strangely, it wasn't awful. It was honest. Without Matt, my life stopped revolving around someone else's preferences. What music to play? What shows to binge? What dinner didn't have too much garlic? I started remembering what I liked. I lit candles he used to say gave him a headache. I danced in the kitchen in socks, playing songs he always skipped. I wore lipstick he said was too dark for my face. I began rebuilding, slowly, stubbornly, beautifully. I signed up for a pottery class on Wednesday nights. I reached out to old friends I'd pushed away to keep the peace in our relationship. I started journaling again, not to track goals or fix myself, but to listen to myself. And somewhere in all that mess, something clicked. I wasn't just healing, I was becoming. Becoming someone who didn't need permission to take up space. Becoming someone who knew how to love without losing herself in the process. Becoming someone who didn't shrink to make others feel taller. Matt used to tell me I was too much, too intense, too opinionated, too planned, too loud. But the truth is, I was just too much for him. Not for the world, not for my future, just for him. And that wasn't a flaw. It was freedom. One night, I looked at myself in the mirror. Same reflection, but different posture. Shoulders back, chin up, eyes clear. I smiled, not because everything was perfect, but because, for the first time in a long time, I recognized the girl looking back at me. And she wasn't broken. She was finally home. I used to imagine karma like thunder, loud, dramatic, impossible to miss. But Matt's downfall? It didn't come with flames or a crash. It came with silence and a slow, humiliating unraveling. It started with the eviction notice. After I had the locks changed and the legal paperwork finalized, the landlord posted the official notice to vacate on the door of my old apartment. Matt hadn't answered any of my texts since being served. Not that I was expecting an apology, but even for him, the radio silence was telling. He had 10 days to get his stuff out. He waited until day 9. And when he came, Rachel happened to be there. My Rachel, my best friend. She said he looked different. Pale, unshaven, eyes sunken like he hadn't slept since the party. And the girl? The one in the hoodie? Gone. Apparently she needed space after the drama exploded online. Turned out being the side chick isn't so glamorous when the truth is trending in 3 group chats and your face shows up in memes. Matt's friend circle started thinning out, too. The guys who once hyped him up on weekends stopped answering his calls. One by one, the likes on his gym selfies disappeared. Then came the job. He worked at a startup, one where reputation mattered. Screenshots from the event post, the group chat, and his messy online meltdown ended up circulating around the office. He didn't get fired, but he got moved out of his team into a corner of the company where nobody had to see him, from rising star to invisible man in a swivel chair. And the worst part? He tried to pretend none of it was happening, still posted gym pics, still captioned his stories with fake confidence like, on the grind, tunnel vision. But behind that glassy bravado was a man who lost control of the narrative and had no clue how to rewrite it. Me? I didn't gloat. I didn't comment. I didn't watch his stories. Because honestly, watching him fall wasn't satisfying. It was sad, not because I missed him, but because I once believed he was better than this, that he could be better. And now I knew. He never wanted to grow. He wanted to coast. And when I stopped shrinking myself to make him feel taller, his world collapsed, not in fire, but in flickering, pitiful silence. It had been 27 days, almost a month since I walked out, since the party, since the "you've been served" moment went mildly viral, since I'd heard anything from him. Then one night, at 1:14 a.m., my phone buzzed. Matthew. Of course it was Matt, because that's how men like him operate. They crawl out from the wreckage just long enough to tap at the door they set on fire. His message? Hey, just wanted to say sorry. Hope you're good. No punctuation, no context, no emotion. Just a cold, half-drunk string of words meant to relieve his guilt, not mine. I stared at the screen for a good 5 minutes, debating. I could have ignored it. I could have sent back a paragraph with bullets and timestamps in pain. But instead, I did something better. I replied with one sentence. Don't worry, you made sure I'm better than good. That's it. No anger, no questions, no softness, just closure. The kind I gave to myself. He didn't respond. Of course he didn't. Men like Matt don't know what to do when they lose the script. When the girl they underestimated refuses to play along. He thought he still had a piece of me. He thought after all the chaos, I'd still be the girl who flinched at his silence and begged for scraps of affection. But he didn't realize that girl didn't live here anymore. She packed her bags the night she walked through the door and saw strangers living in the shell of her life. She left when she realized she deserved more than empty apologies and gaslighting parties. She left and never looked back. And now? Now she answers 1 a.m., texts like a woman who remembers her worth. Because that's who I am now. Not his second thought, not his fallback plan, not his maybe someday. I'm my own beginning, and I never needed his permission to start again. It came on a Wednesday afternoon, the kind of quiet day where nothing dramatic is supposed to happen. I was sitting at my favorite little coffee shop, headphones in, editing a resume for a friend. Life had started to feel normal again. Peaceful even. The kind of peace you don't notice until you've lived without it for too long. Then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost didn't check it, but curiosity won. The message said, "Hi, you don't know me, but I think we have something in common. I dated Matt too. While he was with you, I just found out. I'm so sorry." I blinked, sat back, let the words sink in. Another girl, another one. Not hoodie girl. Not wineglass girl. Someone else. Her name was Emily. She said she met Matt at a networking event almost a year ago. He told her he was in a complicated relationship and that they were on and off. She had no idea I existed. Not really. He made it sound like I was an ex who wouldn't let go. Emily was kind, sharp, heartbroken. She told me everything. Timelines, details, proof. Screenshots of texts sent on the same nights he told me he was working late or hanging with the guys. It was a gut punch, but oddly, not in a painful way. Because I didn't feel fooled. I felt free. It confirmed everything I'd already sensed. The gut feelings I pushed down. The moments I made excuses for. The nights I stayed up waiting for a text that never came. It wasn't me. It was never me. It was him. Emily and I ended up talking for over an hour. Not about Matt, but about healing. About how easy it is to lose yourself in someone else's orbit. About how men like him collect people, not relationships. By the end of the call, we were laughing. Isn't that wild? Two women who were lied to by the same man, finding relief in each other. That's when I knew something had shifted. This wasn't just about moving on anymore. This was about reclaiming the narrative. And maybe, just maybe, building something better from the ashes. I didn't expect to feel nervous. It was just 4 walls and a roof. A door I used to unlock without thinking. A hallway I could walk with my eyes closed. A place that once held my laughter, my tears, my life. But that night, my first night back, it felt different. Not haunted, not broken. Just quiet. I stepped into the apartment slowly. The smell of fresh paint lingered faintly. The carpets had been cleaned. The landlord even replaced the blinds Matt had ruined during his rager. I didn't bring much with me. A few suitcases, a new comforter, fresh silverware, a single box of books. Everything else I left behind, emotionally and physically, because this wasn't about going back. It was about going forward, on my terms. The first thing I did, lit a candle. Lavender and cedar. The scent Matt used to complain gave him headaches. I put on a playlist of all the music he used to skip. I cooked pasta for one and danced barefoot in the kitchen while it boiled. I hung up a new shower curtain, put my books on the shelf, laid out the new bedding, soft and clean and untouched by old memories. It wasn't perfect. There were moments I paused, seeing a scratch on the floor and remembering the night we built that damn coffee table. or catching myself expecting him to walk in when I heard footsteps in the hallway. But those moments passed, because the longer I stayed in that space, my space, the more I realized he had taken up too much room in my life, in my head, in my plans, in my sense of self. And now he was gone, and the silence he left behind wasn't empty. It was sacred. That night, I sat on the couch with a glass of wine and whispered to myself, "You made it back, and this time, it's yours." It wasn't the ending I imagined when we first moved in together, but maybe it was the one I needed. People ask me sometimes, in DMs and comments, even in real life when the story slips out over drinks, if you could go back, would you still come home early? And the truth? Absolutely. Because that one decision, booking an early flight, surprising him a day ahead of schedule, didn't ruin my life. It revealed it. Coming home early didn't break my heart. It exposed the cracks that were already there. It pulled the curtain back on the performance I didn't even realize I was a part of. I thought I was living in a love story. Turns out I was a supporting character in someone else's ego trip. But had I come home when I was supposed to, he would have cleaned it all up. He would have changed the sheets, tossed the red cups, lit a candle like nothing happened. And I would have kissed him, asked him how his week was, curled up next to him on a couch still warm from someone else's body. That thought chills me more than anything. So no, I don't regret it. I needed to walk in on that disaster. I needed to see it with my own eyes. Because if I hadn't, I'd still be stuck in a loop, shrinking, doubting, apologizing for things I didn't break. Coming home early didn't end something beautiful. It ended something false. And in the ashes of that truth, I found something I'd been missing for far too long. Myself. The real me. The me who sets boundaries. Who doesn't justify disrespect. Who doesn't cling to people who treat loyalty like a doormat. So if you're ever wondering whether it's better to stay blind a little longer to avoid the pain for the sake of comfort, let me say it plainly. Rip the bandage. Come home early. Open the closet. Check the phone. Ask the question you're afraid of asking. Because heartbreak isn't the worst thing that can happen to you. Living in a lie is. It's funny. When I think back to that night, the moment I walked through the front door with my suitcase still in hand, I don't feel rage anymore. I don't feel humiliated, or bitter, or small. I feel grateful. Because that night didn't destroy me. It revealed me. It peeled back the version of myself that bent too much, forgave too quickly, and gave away pieces of her soul just to keep someone who wasn't even holding on. And beneath all that, there I was. Not perfect, not polished, but real. And finally, free. They say your life can change in a moment. For me, it happened between the beat of a bass drum and a girl in my hoodie smirking from my couch. But the true moment, the real shift, didn't come from what I saw. It came from what I chose after. I chose myself. I chose not to fight for someone who had already walked away emotionally long before I packed my bags. I chose not to waste energy proving I was worthy, because I am. I chose not to shrink from the embarrassment, because what he did says nothing about my value and everything about his. And now, I've moved. New apartment, new energy, new peace. Sometimes I light that lavender candle and smile. Sometimes I wear that hoodie, because guess what? I took it back, washed it, kept it, because it was mine all along. Matt? He became a cautionary tale, a footnote, a lesson written in all caps and red ink. And me? I became someone I respect, someone I would have looked up to 2 years ago, someone who doesn't beg to be loved, but invites love by loving herself first. So, yeah, I got home a day early. I found my boyfriend throwing a party in my living room, found strangers in my bed, found receipts in my closet, found lies where I thought there was loyalty, but more importantly, I found myself, and I wouldn't trade that discovery for anything, not even the perfect love story I once thought I had. Because this story, this one, the one where I rebuild from the rubble, this is mine, and it's better than anything I left behind.